everyone.
Hi.
Good morning.
Everything is easy. I just don't know my left and my right.
He announced earnings this morning. I told him he's already put the hard work out of the way. Lloyd, welcome back.
It's good to be back.
You were not with us last year.
I wasn't here last year, yeah.
We missed you a lot. We were just talking backstage, and we weren't actually going to talk about this, but, you know, there's a fantastic lesson in you were ill a year ago.
Yeah, I was.
Yeah, what was going on?
Right after Labor Day, in fact, a couple of days after I saw you, because I saw you over Labor Day weekend, I was...
When he looked fantastic 2 Labor Day weekends ago, Lloyd looked fantastic.
Oh, I
was bragging to me about how much weight he had lost.
No,
I
had all these symptoms, all of which were explainable by something else, and one of them was I was losing a lot of weight, and I said, my goodness, my discipline is unbelievable. And I'm like, I started giving people advice on how they also could lose weight, and then somehow the machine didn't turn off, and so then I went and I figured something was. I thought something might be up, although I didn't feel that bad, but I was. But you know, I never do. I'm more of a carrier than somebody who feels it himself.
And what was the diagnosis?
I had lymphoma, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Mm-hmm. So you went through chemo?
I went through chemo. I went through about, there's 6 3-week cycles, about 100 hours of chemo. It sounds, and it is for a lot of people. I didn't get that sick, but I got a little sick. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, unlike everybody else, it gave me a big appetite, so I put back 40 of the 35 pounds I lost.
Well, good. And you look very healthy now. So
I refuse to exceed to it. And the only thing that fits me is my tie.
Lloyd, we're very glad to have you back. And we're going to use this.
Thank you.
And we're going to use this very brief opportunity to talk about the wonderful work you do with women around the world. But first, I want to ask you about just tell us how you are looking at the global economy right now.
Oh, well, I would tell you it's very odd for me because there's such a bifurcation between sentiment, which is very, very negative around the world. And I say negative, I mean populist, but populism of the left, populism of the right. You see it reflected in the United States in the bitter election cycle. But you see it manifest around the world. You see it in Brexit, and you see the vote they have in Colombia, and the leadership in the Philippines, and in a way, and you see this manifest everywhere. There's a real negativity and a real negative sentiment. Now, the economy isn't supercharged, but if you just looked at the metrics and the numbers, especially in the United States, to say the least, it's not that bad. We're virtually at full employment. Energy prices are relatively cheap. Consumers, everything from the consumers to banks, big banks have deleveraged and are relatively well positioned. Earnings are soft. GDP at 2-ish is not as dramatic as it could be, but at the same time, it's not as bad as the sentiment would indicate.
How worried are you about this raging populism, this reaction against authority in so many areas, and the declining respect for the financial services industry, which is certainly not helped by the latest drama at Wells Fargo?
No. Let's say financial institutions might be a narrow little bullseye, but they're concentric circles of business in general. Institutions are in. I would say the most distressing thing to me is the lack of recognition of the legitimacy of other people's sense of the context and what to do, and people going to their representatives and getting a contractual commitment that they will stand firm on an extreme position and never compromise. How do you get anything done? How do you achieve without compromise? And if you did get something done, how do you achieve any legitimacy? Because if only the extreme, let's say if you had the vote from an extreme point of view, the next time government changes, the people who succeed you will have had no participation, won't regard it as illegitimate, and they'll spend every fabric of their being trying to reverse it. And we see that in the politics today. So I have to say I am militantly moderate and militantly in favor of achieving a compromise such that if you didn't get everything you wanted, you'd get a lot of it. And by the way, this rhetoric today is, I'm a winner, you have to be a loser. Most things in life could be win-win. That's the nature of trade, it's the nature of political compromise. You're not sharing 100, you're sharing 140. And so everyone could get the bulk of what he or she wants, and not only that, have some confidence that it will sustain past the bruising battle.
So in the spirit of making financial services and corporate America more socially respected, responsible, you've certainly been a pioneer in that area of doing social good, and one of your premier programs, probably the premier program in our minds, is your 10,000 Women program.
Right.
Where's Dina Powell? Is Dina here? Dina, yeah, which you brought Dina Powell in 2007 to lead. And Lloyd, what was your vision then with 10,000 Women and helping, funding, guiding women across the developing world? And is what it has come to be any different from what
I'll tell you,
imagined?
honestly, we were shopping around for a theme and a commitment. And part of the narrative of what we do is, we kind of believe in the sustainability of business. We write checks, and we're all individually and collectively as a firm good philanthropists. But that's writing a check. We have a core belief that if you invest in people who grow businesses, that's sustainable. It's not waiting for the next check to come in. What happens, and so that's a big ethic. And then we're saying, what kind of space do we want to fill? And as a firm, we want to involve the people in the firm, and we want it to be relevant to kind of like our mission and our, in our strategy. And so we were definitely building up. We were the coiner of the phrase BRICS, our role in emerging markets. We believed that there was a space, and this is key. There was a seminal piece of research by our Kathy Matsui, who I heard just introduced herself, called Womenomics, which pointed out how much GDP would added if just women would find their role in the workforce commensurate with the role that men play in the workforce. It was something like 12% of GDP was being lost just by holding women away from the average position that anyone might have taken. And so as an investable space, consistent with, again, trying to do something, women was a place where we were underrepresented in our own firm, so we wanted to appeal to people and get a commitment and an involvement of our own folks, the emerging market piece, and also it represented investment and something that could be sustainable in the long term, as opposed to the element where we don't participate and just write a check. So that was the genesis, and then from that point forward, we were students. We learned a lot. And I will tell you what I learned. I used to tell you, if you had asked me 10 years ago, I would think that everybody who was really great in the world had to have gone into and come out of some U.S. business school somewhere with a briefcase and with that kind of validation imprimatur. I met in this program, and you'll meet a couple of women right now who are just spectacular by any standard. I'm telling you, and I don't want to diminish them. These women that you'll meet today are spectacular, but I met 9,998 others that are equivalently, and I'm telling you, you could take the population of Goldman Sachs, brush them aside, give them a few more weeks of training, and we can replace them with this crowd.
Watch out. There are quite a few Goldman women here. Watch out for your jobs.
I could, but that would be a little bit of a radical step.
I think the women you have here are kind of high in your eye.
I think so too. And now that you pointed out to me, I'm going to get skinned.
So Fortune 10 years ago started the Fortune U.S. State Department Global Women Mentoring Partnership. Many of you in this room have very generously hosted some of these women at your companies. When Dina Powell left the State Department and went to Goldman Sachs, it was her idea to start the Goldman Sachs Fortune Global Women Leaders Award, which every year goes to 2 women who go back home to their home country after this wonderful experience being hosted by you women in the United States, go back home to their home country and pay it forward in the biggest way. This year we have 2 award winners presented with a very major prize, $25,000 each from Goldman Sachs. So we'd now like to welcome to the stage this year's Global Women Leader honorees, Rima El Husseini, a blessing, and Shiru Wabaru Wathaka of Fun Kids. Welcome them to the stage. Okay, so we're just going to talk for a few minutes about what you both do. Shiru, I'm going to start with you, and tell us about Fun Kids, what you do in Kenya, and what you are going to do with this award that we're giving you.
Thank you, Patty. My name is Shiru. I am the CEO of Fun Kids, a children's brand where we design and manufacture innovative quality products from Africa and educational content as well. This is to change the narrative that good can come from Africa, Kenya. So we're very determined to do this. Our business grew faster than we could imagine, and we heard about the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Women program, which we applied for, as well as the financing from them. And we're able to scale our factory. We now have state-of-the-art technology, and our business just grew. And then we realized, especially as I drive to work, the neighborhood we're in, I'm fortunate. So literally, with this award, we're able to now also train children, especially from disadvantaged families, to learn how to innovate. They don't just come and learn how to innovate, we also feed them, because in Africa, in Kenya, sometimes children just need food. So we teach and also feed. And then I realized there's women around the community as well who lack skills. So we're talking about empowering myself. Thank you, Goldman Sachs, 10,000 women. But the women around me are not empowered as well. So we have a training program both for kids and for women where it costs roughly $15 a day, and it's just changing their lives. It's wonderful for Fun Kids to be scaling, but honestly, my business must scale the people around me, the children and the women. So with the money we're getting, that's what we're going to do.
Fantastic. Thank you. All right. Rima, you are co-founder and CEO of Blessing. You were a mentee of Susan Whiting, who was then at Nielsen and couldn't make it here, but she's here in spirit. In 2012, was that?
Yes.
Okay. Tell us about Blessing, and tell us what you plan to do with this award.
Okay. Blessing is a company for chocolates and gifts and invitations. Since I attended the mentoring program in 2012, I was helped to grow the business, which grew beyond my country, Lebanon, to the Middle East and a little bit beyond by doing, the chocolates and gifts for George Clooney wedding. So that was a big thing. And but the most important thing that after the program, I came back to Lebanon, committed to paying it forward and to creating this mentoring concept in our community, which did not exist, unfortunately, before that. And we founded the Blessing Foundation for empowering women in business. Ever since we were putting women leaders in our community together with emerging women leaders to mentor them, but now we want to have a much bigger impact. And we went to women in rural areas, in refugee camps. Lebanon is a country with a 4 million population, and we have 2 million Syrian refugees. So imagine the pressure this puts on our security, economy, on our infrastructure. The project is to give the products of those women, to put them online on a website, on an electronic platform, and to give them the chance to have local and eventually global visibility for their products. This way we'll be alleviating a little bit of the pressure on those women and girls in those camps and those rural areas, and helping them to become financially resourceful. So thank you, Goldman Sachs and Fortune, for this opportunity, and it's a call to action to everyone to help in this regard as well.
We're going to close with one of my favorite questions, which is, what is power? Shuru?
Power is having the ability, in my opinion, to make a difference, not to your person, but to those around you. A positive difference, that's power.
Lloyd?
I think power is influence. It's the ability to get people to do what you want them to do. So there's good power and bad power, hard power, force, or soft power, persuasion. But power at the end of the day is able to get people to do what you think you want them, what you want them to do and accomplish.
Rima?
I believe that power is the ability to have a positive impact on people around you and to help them grow. And this is also leadership. And dream is power as well, because everything starts with a dream. I will share with you a little secret. In 2012, when I was invited to this summit with Susan Whiting, I promised myself that I will come back here and be on stage. And here I am. I dreamt.
Oh, fantastic. This is why we love the word power. And now, speaking of power, I would like to introduce the chairman, president, and CEO of IBM, Ginni Rometty, who will be interviewed by Fortune's editor-in-chief and Time Inc.'s chief content officer, Alan Murray. Thank you.
Good.
Thanks.
Thanks a lot.
That was good. I like